Welcome back to The Advisor with Stacey Chillemi, the show that cuts out through the noise and helps you step into your power, transform your mindset, and create a life that lights you up. And before we dive in this episode, I want to proudly mention our sponsor, Dr. Bradley Nelson, for the visionary behind the emotion code and the body code, two groundbreaking methods that are changing the lives by helping other people release their emotional baggage and experience deep healing. Thank you, Dr. Nelson, for supporting our mission and to evaluate the minds and transform lives. Now, today's episode is going to be a home run hit because for a lot of women out there, I want you to listen to this because we're talking about something real, something raw, something that so many of us experience but rarely ever talk about: midlife transformation. If you've ever felt like you're going through the motions, wondering what happened to me, then this conversation's for you. My guest today is Terry Tateossian. She's the entrepreneur, she's retreat leader, and brilliant mind behind the House of Rose, a powerful sanctuary where women come together to reconnect themselves and heal and step into a whole new chapter of their life with intention and purpose. Terry, welcome to the show. I'd like you to say hello to everybody and tell our listeners a little about who you are and what you do.
Thank you, Stacey. It's a pleasure to be here. I love everything you said about midlife because isn't that the case, right?
Yes, it is.
It hits us like a tractor trailer and we don't know what the heck is happening, which was my experience.
Yeah.
So in my 20s and my 30s, I used to run a marketing and advertising agency, and then I hit a brick wall. I had just had a baby at 35, and unbeknownst to me, I entered perimenopause at 37. Imagine that. I was still wearing pregnancy clothes, okay, when I started getting hot flashes. And I have so many funny stories because it is true. Ignorance is bliss, okay? Ignorance is definitively a blessing in some cases because I had no idea what the heck was happening to me. And when I would get a hot flash, I would think, my gosh, this is so great. I'm burning fat. My metabolism's on fire. And yeah, this is so great. But anywho, so I went through a massive midlife transformation in my 40s. I changed careers. I became a women's transformation coach for women over 40 that are going through perimenopause and are looking to make changes, such as get their fitness into gear, get their nutrition on point, get their mindset, in line with where they want to be in 20, 30, 40 years. And then I started running retreats for women. And this year we're actually adding two new locations, one in Sedona, one in the south of France. So keep an eye on that in 2026. And yeah, so here I am at 40, almost nine.
Wow. It's crazy because I went through perimenopause, like I was telling you, at 39. I had no clue. I was totally oblivious to what was going on in my body. I was getting all these signs and symptoms, and like you, like I'm like, had no clue, like all these changes. And I didn't even phase me that I could be going through perimenopause at such an early age. It was just it was mind-boggling. And then I looked in the mirror one day and I'm like, I'm starting to see like these little hips that never were there before. And I'm like, where'd this come from? I'm like, I eat pretty healthy. I don't get it. Like, why do I have these hips now, And I was just totally, I had no clue until I went and got help and talked to other women. I was totally in the black. Now, today I just want to dive in and tell a lot of women, about have them learn about the 40s and 50s and start feeling this deep inner nudge, like something is off, something is missing, and they can't quite name it. Those women are out there, and there's so many of them. Like I've been to many dinners, parties, and women are talking, and they have no clue what's going on. And like you, like many of them would just be there, and all of a sudden their face is turning red, and they're starting to get like hot flashes, and they don't know what to do. And some women want to go and get help. Some women are afraid to because they don't know, what's going to happen if they get help. So they're kind of like, scared. A lot of women. Now, in your experience, what is really going on beneath the surface when women feel like this, and a call for transformation in midlife is really necessary?
Well, a lot of times, so the biological changes that are taking place, the physiological changes like the hormone fluctuations and things like
Yeah.
that, they're very natural and they're very normal. They are not a sign of an existential threat, right? So it doesn't really mean that our life doesn't have meaning or purpose. It's just the transition from being able to conceive to the end of our reproductive years, right? And so a lot of times the existential crisis that I had myself comes from what I believe was a misalignment in my true spirit, what my spirit actually needed. Because I spent, what, 37? I mean, if I count from birth to the point of when I hit midlife,
Yeah.
37, 39. I spent my entire life doing things that I was told I needed to do. I never really sat down and looked inward in terms of what did I want and
Yeah.
I want to do, who did I want to be? I didn't even know who the heck I was because
Right.
I was in that hamster wheel, right? And so when we enter that period of time where now biologically, physiologically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, everything is on fire, literally and figuratively,
Yeah.
we tend to not know what to do, right?
Yeah.
Because we spend all that time doing other things. Now, there's some people that are really lucky. They have a direction and they know exactly what their purpose in life is and their calling, what their calling is, and all these things very
Yeah.
early on. And they're very lucky, but that was not my experience.
No, I think it's a lot of women. It's not their experience, and I think a lot of women go through exactly what you just mentioned. Now, what sparked your own midlife transformation? How did it lead to the creation of the House of Rose?
I ended up getting hospitalized twice. The first time I ignored it. So, and you probably know what hospital this is. We're, by the way, everybody listening, Stacey and I are currently New Jersey neighbor sisters. We just found that out this morning, which is pretty cool.
Yeah,
But yeah, I got rushed into a New Jersey ER and I spent 2 days in there. And I was told that there are no signs of a stroke or a heart attack. So no idea what happened. And it was attributed to a massive panic attack. And so once I figured out, okay, I have a massive panic attack, not a big deal, whatever, who cares? I don't have time for this. Moving on. Like I'm too important, okay, to
Mhm.
deal with my own health. I
Huh?
have, do you know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying. Yes.
I'm too busy for this crap, okay? Like, please, I don't need this. And so I ignored it, right? So I completely bulldozed over the event and I just kept going in the same pace, the same work schedule, the same amount of responsibilities. I did not take a break. And so guess what? It happened again, of course, right? So I had a second what I thought was a heart attack. And this time I was convinced that this is a heart attack. There's no way this is not a heart attack. I was doubled over like in a fetal position on my kitchen floor. I was in so much pain. And so the second time, same thing happened. And they said, okay, go to a cardiologist because this is, we don't know what's going on. Here's a Xanax, go home. And I went to the cardiologist, I went to all the different doctors, and no one could pinpoint any specific thing that caused that chest pain, right? And I decided I'm going to be my own doctor. And I decided, okay, maybe it's time to lose these 80 pounds of extra fat you're carrying around. Um,
Yeah.
maybe it's time to get serious. So that's when I started. I thought it was the weight that was creating the problem. But now when I think about it in retrospect, I was entering perimenopause.
It's amazing, but you get all those symptoms when we go through perimenopause, and so many women don't realize that all these symptoms they're all intertwined with each other. It's all, the mood swings, the changes, things that once never even bothered us bother us now. It's just it all makes sense when you really think about it. But if it happens all of a sudden, you're not even going to think about perimenopause. That's going to be the last thing on your mind. Why do you think so many women feel disconnected or stuck during midlife? Like, if it's on paper, everything seems fine. But, but when people are living their daily lives, they really do feel very disconnected with the world. They feel so different. Some feel alone. Some feel like they can't relate to a lot of things they once related to before.
Such a great question, right? Because as we're entering midlife, so many things are changing. So if we were identifying in our past as a caretaker, maybe that part of our life is over, right? Maybe our children are going away to college, starting their own lives, and we're empty nesters.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so maybe we're losing our past identity. Maybe we're going through a divorce, right? So maybe if we identified as a partner or a wife, a homemaker, maybe that's going away as well. Maybe our parents are no longer with us, right? And maybe we're losing a lot of our identity in this process, right? It's a very tricky age,
Yeah.
and a lot of friendships either, they get more distant, people move, you're not into the same types of hobbies.
Yeah.
Especially I see this all the time when you decide to make a change.
Mhm.
So let's say you're in midlife and you decide to like really grab that bull by the horns and do something different. All of a sudden your friends start, you know asking very odd questions like, what do you mean you don't drink alcohol anymore? Or what's this like, fitness thing you're on? Why are you lifting weights? Oh my gosh, you've lost too much weight. I heard that. And I was very overweight. And things like that. So there's a lot of ebbs and flows in this particular transitionary period. Plus, a lot of people believe that it's hard to make new friends, which I totally understand. It is hard because we are so busy all the time, but there's a lot of ways that you can meet people that are of like mind with you. And
Yeah.
that's why I started all the retreats.
I love it. I love it. Now, what are some of the biggest myths about midlife that hold women back?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
What are some of the biggest myths that hold women back when it comes to midlife?
Oh, the myths. Ah, yes, the myths. Well, there's so many myths that I love busting these. So that perimenopause is going to be very painful and tragic.
Hmm.
And it is difficult, not going to lie. But once you get out of it, you get so much freedom.
Yeah.
You don't have to buy Tampax anymore. You don't even have to wear underwear anymore. You can do whatever the heck you want. You can get pregnant. I mean, that's a good thing and a bad thing, I suppose. Depends on your perspective. Um, you just don't really care.
Right. Yeah.
And things seem to calm down a lot from my own personal experience in
Right.
being in menopause. I
Yeah.
feel a lot better than I did during my reproductive years. So my moods are a lot more stable. I've been 6 years postmenopausal so far, but
Hmm.
almost 7 years post-menopause. I'm a lot calmer. I I don't get fired up about things as easily, right? Like angry or stressed or overwhelmed. It doesn't really get to me. Um, just everything seems to be a lot smoother. There's a lot less resistance in life and internally in my mindset. And I noticed this across the board with my coaching clients as well, where, we work through a lot of these things, but you come out of it a much stronger person. And I think the myth is that we're frail, we're fragile, we can't get stronger in midlife, physically or mentally or spiritually. And
Yeah.
it's the road, and that we're going to age ungracefully.
That's so true. Now, can you share a breakthrough moment from one of the retreats where you had a woman stepped into her power?
Oh my gosh, so many. It happens at every retreat, really. And the interesting part is that it doesn't necessarily happen during the retreats. It
Hmm.
happens after. So
Right.
I get a lot of messages from women after they've gone home, and we continuously chat. Even a year later, 2 years later, women come back to retreats that they've already been to.
Yeah.
And that I hear the most is, I have a better outlook on how to approach my fitness and my health and my nutrition, which are the three key components to aging gracefully or to reverse aging, even, right? So
Yes.
you get your fitness, your nutrition, and your mindset in the right place, you can achieve really amazing things. So these things normally happen when women go home.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. And I could see that. I could, because you're going through it. And then after, it takes a while for it to process, And sometimes, for some women, it could happen right away. But for a lot of people, 2, 3 days later, it's all starts to play in place and they start to feel the changes and they start to see the differences. And it's pretty amazing when you go through that process. Now, how can women begin to rewrite their story when they spent decades putting everyone first in their life?
So common, right? That happens so much.
Yeah,
And it's hard, right? It's hard to start drawing boundaries
yeah,
because we're afraid. We're afraid that people are no longer going to like us, love us. They're going to leave us. They're going to feel resentful towards us. And all of those things could potentially happen. But the question is, do you want to continue saying yes to things that don't fill your cup and miss out on the opportunities that will make you happy in the
right.
next 40, 50 years? Or do you want to continue spending your time people pleasing and not having any boundaries and not really spending any time figuring out who you are? What your inner being, what your inner soul truly wants. I mean, think about this time as your freedom. You're out of jail.
Yeah,
You no longer have to please anybody. You don't have to take care of anybody. You can direct all that energy towards yourself and figure out what can you do to grow up your internal being that's been sitting there waiting for this time.
right. Oh, I love that. I love that. Now, what role does self-trust and intuition play in transforming our lives during this phase?
It's everything, right? It's everything. Learning how to trust our intuition. That was one of my biggest hurdles because my whole life I was told to keep it down, keep it quiet. Like that's woo-woo stuff. We don't we need logic and we need rational actions and thoughts and ideas, and that intuitive part was not given center stage, but it's always been there. You always hear it. It's always whispering in your ear. It's that little voice that's telling you, well, if you like painting, maybe you could paint a little more, or maybe, try these other things. And you always say, no, 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 I don't have time for that. I don't have time for that. And
Right.
so, yeah, it's a process, right? It's a process to learn how to listen, to hear it in the first place, because a lot of us
Yeah.
have forgotten. And then to remember, who is that even whispering to you? Who are you when we take away all of the worldly things, like all the material possessions, all the, strip you down from all the relationships that define your identity, from all the labels and the roles. Who are you really? And I think midlife is the time to figure that out.
Oh, I agree 100%. I think a lot of women are afraid to put those boundaries up. They're afraid, I have come across so many women in their midlife and they have never, said no. They were people pleasing because they felt as a mom, as a wife, it's my duty to put everybody else first. And they forgot about that self-love and that self-care. And they didn't think, they felt shameful if they put themselves first. And they never put those boundaries up. They never, had limitations and they were always doing for everybody else. But when you ask them, who are you? They automatically started saying the titles of what they are. But no, no, like, no, 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 no. Who are you? Without all those titles, what makes you you? And they would just look at me and they wouldn't know because they spent their whole life serving others that they never had time to really look within themselves to figure out who they are and what they really love and a lot of people don't connect with their intuition and other things even though it's right there and it's talking to it they don't acknowledge it because they're so absorbed in everything else because they feel it's an obligation.
Mhm. Absolutely. And it's very scary, right? It's a very scary process to peel back all the layers
Yeah,
because sometimes we're afraid, like, what if there's nothing there?
yeah,
That's the fear is that there's nothing there. But that's not the case. I've never heard of anybody that's gone through this process and has discovered that there's nothing there. There's something
100%.
magnificent.
Exactly. There is. Now, how do you help women move through the fear and step into something new, especially when it feels scary or uncertain?
So my job as a coach is to break things down in manageable, bite-sized steps. Right. So, for example, let's say that the woman she wants to get fit in midlife and she wants to figure out the proper nutrition. So,
Yeah,
those two things are a gateway to actually figuring out who you are, peeling back the layers, figuring out your own identity, and finding out your purpose and your passion. So, it doesn't those two things come before all of the more emotional and spiritual um, parts of the journey. They're kind of the tools that we use to get into that zone. But as far as fitness and nutrition, I break it down into very small, manageable parts that you check them off one by one, and they're easy, they're fluid, they don't feel overwhelming because we don't need yet another overwhelming thing to do in our lives, right? And I look to change the mindset around these things where we're doing this for ourselves. We're not doing this for everybody else. This is truly a gift for you, for your health, for your well-being, for your mental health. And so little by little, it becomes part of their new identity, part of our new habit structure. And it opens up the doors to
yeah,
asking, well, if I can do these things that seemed really difficult to me a year ago, what
right.
else can I do, right?
Yeah. Oh, wow. I love that. Now, are there 1 to 2 daily practices that you recommend for women to get ready to start their reclaiming their purpose?
Reclaiming your purpose. Absolutely. Like, come up with an audacious goal.
Yeah, I like
know,
that.
like something really that you think is like something you're almost embarrassed to tell anybody
Mhm.
because it's so audacious
Yeah,
that you feel like, oh my God, this is never going to happen, right? But why not? Write it down.
yeah,
Put it in a notepad on your phone and just look at it on a daily basis and think about, what are the some of these steps that I can take to move towards that?
right.
So in my case, it was to lose 80 pounds. And
Hmm.
so I thought it was audacious, it was insane, it was impossible, it was never going to happen. I just believed that that wasn't in the cards for me. I was never going to be in really great shape. That was a
Yeah.
false belief, right? So I kept telling myself that, but then I said, okay, well, I'm gonna just for shits and giggles, excuse my French, right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna attempt this thing that my mind is telling me is never gonna happen. And so little
Right.
by little, it actually did happen. It took a few years, but it did happen.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Now, how did your retreats guide women from burnout to breakthrough?
So the retreats are focused around nervous system regulation, right? So calming down the nervous system through breath work, meditation, somatic breathing, yoga, uh, restorative yoga, vinyasa yoga. We also do Pilates, and we go hiking literally in nature in the middle of nowhere, which is very therapeutic, and
Hmm.
we eat really great food. We're surrounded by beautiful scenery, and we get to connect with each other and hear about a lot of struggles that other women are having that are really similar to ours. We tend to see we're not alone in this.
Yeah.
There's a lot of other women going through very similar things and share, right? So sharing our experiences as a collective, I think it's really important so that we don't feel so isolated in our own minds, right? And that's generally what has always worked for me. And I see it working over and over again. I've done over 60 retreats at this point, with about 600 women, and it's a very, very similar process.
Wow, I love it. Now, for women listening who feel like it's too late or they're too tired to change, what would you say to them right now?
Not, there's no such thing. I will just say no. Not true. That's not true. That's a story. That's a story that you're telling yourself that somewhere along the line you picked up this idea because that's what's repeated out there, in family circles with some friends that might have a not so positive outlook in the media in society. That's just a story that you're telling yourself. You are an individual, and individuals do things based on their own capacity. So if you don't believe it's too late and you're too old, then you are not. You're going to keep moving forward.
Right. I love it. I love it. Now, tell everybody about some of the services and some of the things that you provide.
So I do one-on-one coaching directly, just like this, right? So get on the Zoom call, we chat about all the different things, and they are focused around fitness, so strength training specifically. I provide well-rounded programs that include yoga, Pilates, steps, cardio, all the things. And so that's done on a monthly basis. And then I also do in-person retreats once or twice per month. So you have an opportunity to come and be trained in person, do yoga in person, do all the activities in person. So then when you go home, right, you're more confident in, what to do in the gym or how to work out at home or what the proper form is for a good squat, for example. So you have more confidence in what you're doing. But those are generally the two things I do. We do have a cookbook coming out this year with some fantastic meals, Mediterranean recipes. And yeah, and that's it.
I love it. I love it. Now, you also mentioned that you're going to have your email in a description, you said, and then you will send them something if they email you. So what was that thing?
That's right. So I have this guide that I created for anyone that is interested in figuring out their own macros, which is basically your nutrition, right? So how much protein, how many carbs, how much fat per day you should be consuming, because most women are under eating
Right.
significantly, right? So very low in protein, very high in carbs and fat. So I have a guide if anybody's interested in getting that guide. It's about 20 pages. Email me. And my email is Terry, T as in Tom, ERRY, at thehouseofrose.com, and I'll send it over to you.
I love it. I love it. And for today's conversation, if you had to really emphasize on some important factors, what are some things you really want the listeners to walk away with from this conversation today?
I want you to know that you can change anything that you want to change. If you don't like the way you feel, whether that's internal or external, whether it's about your physical body or your internal state, if you don't like something, there is a way to change it. Just reach out for help. There's a lot of really great people out there that have not only walked the path, but gone through the fire, come out the other side, and they're thriving. And
Yeah,
their main purpose and passion is to offer support. So reach out, ask for help, and yeah, it can be done.
I love it. I love it. Now, the retreats you do, can you tell people a little bit more about the retreats that you do and where they can find them?
So you can find the retreats on the website, thehouseofrose.com. I also post a lot of things on my Instagram, and my Instagram is how good can it get? Because there's no limit. But yeah, all the retreats are listed there. 2026 is coming out this month, the entire schedule, because 2025 is pretty much completely booked and sold out. We're at capacity. So in 2026, the new schedule is going to come out this month. It's going to include Sedona, south of France, and Tennessee.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Awesome. This has been amazing. I really appreciate you coming on the show, Terry. I think it's so important that women understand, the changes that we go through and that it's okay and that you shouldn't get scared or upset or saddened or depressed because your body's changing, you're changing, life around you is changing, but it should means we're going through just a new era in our lives and we can make that a beautiful era, and it's just learning how to connect with the right people and how to take care of our bodies and be able to just, have a really good plan for the present and the future so we can move on. And because it's really a new beginning, that's all it is, I think. It's really a new beginning to a really special second half of our life, and nothing more, nothing less, I think. But I really think what you're doing is so amazing.
Thank you. I love what you just said. A new beginning to the second half. I love that because that is so true.
Yeah, I think people sometimes they get so hooked up on the number of our age, but it's not about the number, it's about how we feel about ourselves. And I think that's so important because if you really feel great about yourself, you don't act your age, you don't look your age. It's really a lot of it has to do with mindset too. What we put in our mind really shows because it shows on outwardly and it can show inwardly, but by the way we our health, by the way we behave, and that all comes out outwardly too. Your skin, your everything. It's we're all connected. So it's really, really, if you think young, if you take care of yourself, if you just live the life you want to live, and everybody can, just like Disney says it, you can make your dreams a reality. We just have to have the right mindset and the determination to do what is best for us. And we have to, like you said, we have to take time to really figure out what is best for us, and that's what you're doing. You're helping women realize who they are, what's best for them, and what their future entails, So I really thank you so much for helping so many women out there really find themselves and be able to have that beautiful second half of their life.
Thank you, Stacey. It was a pleasure to be here. I'm very grateful for this opportunity to chat with you. And yeah, I'm looking forward to everything going forward in the future.
Yes, definitely. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time and I hope to, talk with you sometime in the future too. This is wonderful what you're doing. I'm really excited for you.
Thank you, Stacey.
Have a great day.